So I just want to give a little guide of what we're going to talk about tonight. We've had several conversations about this, and I've really been looking forward every time that we've gotten together. We've been looking forward to having this conversation. So I'd like to start by having Carole talk a little bit about growing up and how, from a very early stage, she developed this sense of design. So that'll be the first topic we talk about, and that will lead to some stories about the varied career she's had as a serial entrepreneur. And Kim has talked about that a little bit, but we'll explore some of her favorite stories. And then we will talk about her venture philanthropy. And lastly, particularly she's very excited about talking to the students in the room. So those of you all have to be a student tonight. She wants to share some of the life lessons and the advice that she has for young designers. So let me start to talk to you for a second, Carole.
Okay.
You are well known as the co-founder of the iconic retail brand named Crate & Barrel with your husband, Gordon. The Smithsonian Institute recognized you as two of the greatest entrepreneurs or innovators in America. B and I attended this show that you had a number of years ago. There's so much more to your life beyond just talking about Crate & Barrel, but I'm going to ask you to reflect a little bit on that experience, mostly as a backdrop for your life, as you describe what we've talked about, a life of opportunity and serendipity. And so that'll be the theme of what we talk about tonight, opportunity and serendipity. All of us here believe that your career in design has mirrored the evolution of design itself, from images and objects to systems and experiences. So one of the things I know best about you is your willingness to share your experience with others. So that's what we're going to do tonight. And I think it's really appropriate for us to have the opportunity to do it here at the Institute of Design, where you've been a longtime member of the Board of Advisors, as Kim said, and a trustee of Illinois Tech as well. And this tribute to you is also a celebration of the upcoming International Women's Day. So I'm delighted to have this opportunity to talk with you. And we have some photos that are running in the background here. So I just want to start with one of your great-grandfather who lived right around the corner here. This is Tim living right around the corner. I think you can go to the next the slide of the house that they lived in. Carole never actually went to this house, but they've been in this neighborhood for a long time. So let me start with your early influences and the appreciation that you developed as a young girl for fine things, the love and experience of food, and your sense of design. So you describe yourself as a small town girl. What does that mean?
That means that I love being outdoors, and it was a tiny town of 2,000 people, and it was a community. You had what you did in groups of people, and with the Girl Scouts and school, and everybody knew everybody, and everybody checked on everybody,
And you were close to farms.
Yeah, right behind us was a pig farm, and then the pickle factory, and it was outdoors, and that was kind of life. And we didn't have any fancy stores, and it was very country and very rural, and very nice, actually.
So you've talked about the experience in your family. You had what you called a Tisch culture. Can you talk about what the Tisch culture is and what that meant to you and your sisters and your nanny?
Right. Well, let me just say that we lived in we were 4 girls and a grandmother and a mom and a dad in a 3-bedroom house with 1 bathroom. And my dad was the local dentist, and my mom was a homemaker. My grandmother, who lived in the house, was a seamstress. She had learned how to sew from patterns. That's not the direct descendant of that. This is on my grandfather's side. And but anyway, because we were a family like that, we all had to do something, and we were sort of an arts and crafts kind of house, that the cooking was very, we made it very pretty. And the Tisch culture was that we sat and so this was a German family. Dishes meaning is Tisch. And so we would set a proper table every night, with the silverware, and we had nice china, and we had napkins that we learned how to fold. And then I would go and pick some things from the garden, or some leaves. I'm still doing that and pressing them in the fall and putting them on the table and that kind of thing. So.
And you were influenced by some of the people who lived in that community as well, as a combination of a Swede and a Dane. I think some of your early experiences were with Scandinavians that lived in your community.
Yeah, absolutely. And that he's Scandinavian, so that's why we bring him.
She speaks to me in Swedish, and I can't understand it.
Tack så mycket. See? So, anyway, no, my dear friends, there were 4 of us, and Carla was Swedish. Her dad and mom actually had known my dad in Indiana and grown up. And then across the street was Judy Galt, and Julie, her mother was Julie Sorensen, was Danish. And so I just sort of, we were that kind of, group of people, and so it was
sort of presaged the future of.
Yeah, I didn't know that. That's that serendipity thing, Yeah, I can go to Denmark. I know so much about it. So
your family had a clothing store in Indiana.
My dad had it in Indiana Harbor.
Right.
The whole family were people. They'd come over from Vilnius and. Lithuania, the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, and they all were storekeepers. And so, yes, that was Green Store.
And what you've described to me is your older sisters got to interact with the customers, but you were too young to do that. So what did you get to do? What job did you have?
Okay, well, I'm one of 4 girls. I'm number 3. That my sisters are 10 years older, 8 years older than I, and then a younger sister, 3 years younger. So I could not do it's Christmas time. They all went over to help in the store, but I could set the colors. I've always liked colorways, and so colors with the scarves and the socks, and they let me do that. And they never criticized me. And here I was, this 7-year-old trying to reach the counter.
So in high school, you studied a little bit of design. You began to develop more of your design sense. What did you do while you were in high school?
Well, I went to the Art Institute on Saturdays, took the South Shore train with my mom, and then I went to the Art Institute, and she went shopping.
And you kind of had plans to go to design school, or you wanted to go to design school?
No, that was not until later. I went at Northwestern.
Which is where you met Gordon.
That's true, but no, my first love was medicine, and I was pre-med, but then I got very sick, and I fell behind in all of my work and laboratories and et cetera, et cetera. So then I said to Dad, maybe I should, just go to design school. And he said, no, you got to finish and you got to get your teacher's degree. He said, all your girls have to have teacher's degree because it's an insurance policy. So in those days, it was either being a nurse or being, a teacher was your insurance policy. So there wasn't much open for women at that point in time. I'm in med school, actually, if I had even completed it and done that pre-med, would probably, only if your father was a doctor at the hospital, at the university connected to the hospital, did you get into med school. So that's changed, though, now.
We'll talk about that change in a second.
Yes.
But I want, particularly for the women in the room, I'd like you to share what the advice that your father gave to you about being a girl.
Yes, my dad said to me, I never want to haven't you say anything and make an excuse that you can't do something because you're a girl.
Yeah, how about that? So then you taught after college. You got a teaching degree, and I'm always interested in how people make these transitions from one career to the next. So I've talked to you about this before. I don't know if you remember what you've told me. I'll prompt you if you don't remember. But what did you learn from teaching that you brought into your entrepreneurial life?
Oh, I think actually that was very interesting because the program that we were teaching the children frustrated half of the children, it didn't work. And I said, you know what? We got to go back to things like cat, bat, hat, that we can't be doing the phonics only, and that we have to be creative in different ways of teaching children to learn, because everybody learns in a different way.
So one of the things you told me that you learned, that you did tell that story, but you also said that you learned that it's important to listen to others.
Yes, that's true.
That's
Children
a great.
tell you what you know.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. And the big we.
Yeah.
We'll talk about the big we.
Okay.
So now I want to switch to this theme of opportunity and serendipity, and this really gets to the heart of your life as a serial entrepreneur. You were 22 years old when you and Gordon created this new retail concept. What was it that inspired you guys to do this? What was the inspiration? This is what these designers want to know. What was the inspiration for
Well, it's a whole saga story. We got married in June. We went to the Caribbean and the Caribbean, and we were, because who knew about hurricanes, but we didn't have one. And, but it was cheap, and we could hardly afford anything. And so we were first in Haiti, and then we went to St. John's. And walking down the street, serendipitously, we walked into the Scandinavian design shop. Now, I was raised in Calumet City, Hammond, Indiana. Gordon's family was very modest as well. They gave a lot of $20 wedding gift certificates. I was a little bit more fortunate because there was a local jeweler who also sold Lenox china, which was very nice. And if anybody who went to the wedding could get, was invited to get a discount of 20% on the Lenox. So I had Lenox china. And, but anyway, it was very complicated because dance design, which we had liked, was $19 a 5-piece place setting. And otherwise, there was a lot of Japanese on the market, and the Tines were going this way and this way. So we walked into the Scandinavian design shop, and I saw this beautiful, and there's this picture someplace of the palma, the spoon.
Yeah,
we
he'll bring the spoon up for you.
And I looked at it, and the price was like $2.95, and I said, wow, and look at the Tines and the Fortune. So anyway, the guy said, well, that's because it's 18.8. And I said, oh, really? What's 18.8? So anyway, we got the first, but the design was really good looking. Then there was teak bowls. Dance bowls were, like outrageously priced. And I said, well, how come these are so cheap? Well, this is the factory down the way from the dance design factory. And I imported directly, and a salesman comes to there from other places and other things. So it was like a confluence. This was really an education and an enlightenment as far as, wow, there's another world out there.
And who were you have this phrase about the customers that you were looking for that were similar to you and Gordon at that time.
Oh, well, no, that was later on that the motto became, there were other young people with ourselves with more taste than money.
There may not be many of those anymore, but.
Oh, there still are,
Yeah. So thank you for that. What do you think, so as a business model, what was the opportunity that was unique? What was unique about the opportunity that you presented?
Well, we started importing.
Mm-hmm.
Gordon was the importer directly, so we cut out the middleman. And I was the designer, and exactly that way. And we were just able to create an atmosphere where, we only brought in products that lasted, like Heath stoneware was one of our main products. The Tines on the flatware, which we imported directly, lasted. It was, we even bought some jelly glasses to begin with, but otherwise, basically, we wanted people to not have their money, what they bought would last, and so it was of good value.
It was durable and
looked
looked good.
And
right.
looked good,
Yeah.
it didn't look, Yeah.
So Gordon was the importer, you were the designer. I want to have Anijo bring up the roly-poly decanter, if you'd talk a little bit about the experience of this
Well,
product.
we were at the factory. Okay, why did people have decanters in those days? Because you bought cheap liquor and you put it in the decanter and nobody knew. Now you keep your name out there, but this is Scotch from some but in those days it was But anyway, so we sold a lot of decanters. But anyway, we were at this glass factory in Busu, and they showed us this decanter, but didn't have that top on it. It had a sort of a flat, ugly top. And I said, well, I'd love it a little bit rounder and make it sort of round. Anyway. They said, well, that's no problem. Tomorrow morning we'll have a sample for you. And that was the roly-poly decanter, which we sold for about $3.95, $4.95, I forget now, somewhere in that. Anyway, so we sold a lot of those.
Yeah. There's another product that's in the list here, the teapot, if you would bring that up too. What's the special?
That was our first thing that Gordon and I bought.
Yeah. This is such a sweet story.
We were at Northwestern together. We had a professor that taught us how to make a proper pot of tea, and you needed a regular teapot for it. And so we went looking for teapots at Marshall Fields in downtown Evanston, which is no longer there. Anyway, and I bent down and opened up the drawer down there, and I pulled out this beautiful thing, and I said, well, this is lovely. Anyway, and Gordon agreed, and so that was the first thing that we ever bought together. So that's the Artsburg teapot.
That started it all.
That started it all, right.
I wonder whether you would tell this story about delivering a product to Mies van der Rohe.
Oh.
Because that's perfect. That's perfect for this community.
Perfect for here. Well, we had another glass that was sort of squared off. I only had one, but I didn't bring it to or show you. Well, anyway, and this woman was always in the shop looking, and these were early days, and she said, to this one glass, she said, could I take this home and show Papa, if he liked it? And I said, of course, that was fine. And Mrs. Lohan, and anyway, and so after a while, then she came back and she said, Papa would like to, I forget how many, 8 or 6, or 8, and she said, but could you deliver it? And I said, of course, we could do that. And on our way home, because we lived at Prairie Shores right over here, and anyway, so then she said, but the name is not Lohan, it's van der Rohe. And I said, oh my. So, yes, so we did get to meet him. He was in a wheelchair at that point. Anyway, but that was, and then Dirk Lohan is a trustee here also. So
he's been on the board with us.
Been on the board with us, yeah.
So one of the mantras that you have is you're only as good as the people around you. So if you would, we have talked about a number of folks that were part of your world as you and Gordon were growing Crate and Barrel, and then beyond that. Can you talk a little bit about these trade commissioners and how they helped you right at the outset?
Oh, well, we were really, really lucky because...
This is the serendipity part, I'd say,
yeah, these are the serendipity. Because there was trade commissioners in Chicago at this point in time. And the one that was Swedish that had the most influence with us was George Baum. And he actually had been a buyer for different department stores throughout the United States. And when we went to talk to him about this, he got very excited, and he gave us, the names of different glass factories, but we could look at the catalog, and that's how we began shopping through this. So we ordered by catalog and chose, and then we also met somebody else who also advised us, but the Danish commissioner also was very excited that we were doing this and that they were.
So they really were almost like partners in helping to get the business going.
Absolutely.
And then you met this couple, the Orskoffs. Talk a little bit about.
Well, that was on our first trip to Denmark. Well, we went, we started south and then we went, north, and Anyway, we were told to sort of look for this store called Form and Farver. It was on the Ulfstegade in Denmark. Anyway, we walk in, and then the Danish commissioner said to ask for Torben Orskov, and so we did. And we became fast friends, and he just was the most generous person and lovely person in the world. And he said, after we were talking, and then we had dinner with he and Kirsten, who is still alive and with us, and we talked too often. And we just became fast friends. And then he said, you know what, you should go up to Finland and go and see the Marimekko factory. And so we took this plane and we did up there, and they got off, and there were Quonset huts at Helsinki at that point.
At the airport. Yeah.
Anyway, and that became that very important thing that we were.
So you were importing Marimekko.
Yeah, and our son Robert worked there for 5 years at designing for them, for their.
Where's Robert? There he is.
So.
Great. And then one of the things that folks have been interested in is the typeface that you developed for Crate and Barrel. Talk about your friend who helped you with that, and then he was instrumental in helping you launch the next business too. So here's an image of that. Well,
anyway, we hired different people. Most of them were like school teachers who would come and work on the weekend, or art designers or something, but we couldn't do full-time people. It was part-time people. And this young man called Tom Shortledge came to work for us. And anyway, and we didn't realize how much, creative talent he had for advertising, et cetera, et cetera. And so we were very fortunate, again, that he came into our life. And anyway, he developed the whole, that's Helvetica, which came from Switzerland, and it was just new, and he decided to even compact it a little bit more than that it would be normally with the shapes and things that way. So, yes, anyway, and he did all of our ads. Eventually, he did, this is one of my very favorite ones. And, but there was a whimsical about him. And then some of them had so much copy, like this one, and of course, I loved to read all the copy, and people read it, and so it was,
One of my favorite ones that you talked about was a bag that he designed that had a little tagline on the outside. Do you remember what you told me that
said? Yes, the tagline was, don't you wish that somebody was buying something for Christmas for you? Anyway, so we still get very excited when we see a Crate and Barrel box outside somebody's driveway, and that they bought some things.
There's another photo here, the last one that I want to bring up you have many people we could talk about. There's a photo in here, though, of Stanley Marcus, if you would bring that up. But talk a little bit about,
that was opening,
who are those young folks in there?
I know. That was opening the New York store. But
Stanley Marcus
was, he came with us. He was right there at the beginning, at the front of the line.
From Neiman Marcus.
Yes, that's the one from Neiman Marcus. But he was really a mentor. He shared so many ideas and so many thoughts about retailing, even though he was more in ladies' fashion and things that way, but they still did, top of the table wear. But he said, you don't train people that work for you. You educate them. And he said, you train dogs. And so with that, then we started realizing that we needed to tell people about, why the stoneware was resilient, why the glass was shaped the way it was, hand blown and things that way. And so we created a manual we called it the finishing school for Crate and Barrel employees, because it told you about china, glassware, all of that, the main basic components of things in that way. And then, so that was something that was educating people, that they could educate you when you came in of why was this, glassware this shape and this, pulled stem and et cetera, et cetera.
So I knew there was a connection between teaching your first career and this education that you did. Yeah.
You pulled in with that. And then Gordon on Saturday would go around to different stores and to hold up a glass and say, this glass, why it's, it's hand blown and you can tell by this and that. So anyway, he was always giving the little talks too about product and why they were durable and why they lasted, or why they were good for wine and good things that way. So those are some of those wonderful vases that we got from Poland. We became the largest importer of Polish vases. Our prices are still so reasonable on that it's hard to believe. They're hand blown and they're beautiful. So.
I would like to move now to the next adventure that you had. From a very young age, you were not only interested in the dishes that were used to serve food, you were interested in the food too. So you formed this business called Foodstuffs. But talk about the influence that you had as a little girl in coming into the food halls in Chicago, and how that impacted you.
Well, as I said, we always had a cook. And we had Mrs. Salima, who would come for special occasions. Anyway, and I could be in the pastry bag in the back. But anyway, doing that. But, for the holiday, we always did food for holidays at our house, and we always set a nice table, and that was what we did for, to celebrate things. So the basic thing was Gordon and I went to Europe. We decided after a while to start. Well, I got pregnant again with Katie, who's here, and Robert was soon after. 15 months later, we had Irish twins, as they say. Anyway, so I was home watching Julia Child, and seeing things, and we had always cooked, and people were saying, we had friends that wanted to go play tennis and golf, and what's for dinner. And so anyway, the food halls, I found out that in Europe, really, the women went to the food halls, and Cadave, by the way, if you ever go, to Berlin, is still one of my very favorite food halls. It's not in the basement, it's up on top.
Beautiful place.
And I recommended it to you to go there too. Anyway, but you would buy, or the charcuteries, and in Paris, and you just, anyway, really, really super food. It was not like food from the delicatessens and the grocery stores that we got. So anyway, I'm sitting at home and saying, you know what, I think there's a need for this. And so anyway, I went to the Cordon Bleu and for cooking school. And then I went to Cornell University, and that summer the kids, Robert and Katie, could go to camp. But there was no air conditioning in the dorm, and Gordon would go into Boston to the stores, and we would be like this, and but anyway, learned. And Chef DeRocher taught me again on the bigger scale of the bigger mixers and how to do things that way. And he also gave me the 7 Ps.
7 Ps.
That was his motto, was the 7. Piss poor planning promotes piss poor performance. And then you also kiss.
Oh yeah, keep it simple.
Keep it simple, stupid. Yeah. Yes, right.
Which is different than piss, but.
Right, but so anyway, so in '79 it started Foodstuffs near the railroad tracks. It's for the women driving. They could golf all day long or do whatever they wanted to. Pick up something for dinner. There was always, some sort of an entree and things that way. Their husbands would come off the train, and they would be just, yes. And then Ravinia, and then that was again, and then every holiday, we cooked for the holidays. And so that was always a big business.
What was different about Foodstuffs compared to the first adventure that you had?
Oh, you know what? It was a learning experience. I didn't realize that that I was going to have that many copycats.
Yeah.
That was really, really rough. I would have, develop a pastry chef, and before I knew it, somebody would be hiring that person away, and then my major chef, Sue Ashton, who had gone through anyway, and she was hired by one of my customers. I mean, I had people copying me constantly, and it was just.
That leads right into my last comment here
Yeah.
about you've always been an advocate for building a strong workforce. And one of the ways that that is reflected is people poach your people. So unfortunately, but talk a little bit about the idea that you have about building a strong workforce.
Well, I think it's always important with any field that you do. You cannot do things alone. And we were so fortunate that we had this group of very, very talented young people who wanted some direction or wanted to become part of this. So we're still the Crate and Barrel family. We have a party every year called Life After Crate. And people come from all over. It's so, you know what? It's the big we that we did it together.
The big we.
And you know what? And now with all that's going on, we're stronger together when you do things together these days. You know, because it's we can't be alone, and you know, we can't do it by ourselves.
Right.
It takes a community.
So I want to turn now to something that Kim talked about, the role that you've played as a philanthropist. You're an inspiration both as an entrepreneur and as a philanthropist, and you use this term venture philanthropy. In fact, you've said that you are the seed money queen. What does that mean?
Seed money queen means that, well, I get behind an idea and I put a small amount down. And Pete is here from Rush, where I'm very active as well. And so I'm not, you know, and then I hope that I can inspire other people to, you know, join, you know, and add to the, you know, the pool that's whether it's research or just, you know, help, you know, get the idea off the ground, and that people then could go on and get, you know, whatever. And so, yes, that gives me great joy. I mean, I'm not going to start the business anymore. I've been there, done that. But I do love to invest in young people who can, and other people. You don't have to be young, actually. You can have ideas when you're late. But the thing is, it's important that you get started and that, you know, somebody believes in you with the idea. And, you know, anyway.
I know how busy you and Gordon both are. You're busy, you said, because the need is so great.
Yeah.
But you've also said that you can do a lot with a little of ideas and your time, and so this keeps you quite busy.
Yes.
Anything else you'd like to talk about that?
Well, I mean, to all of you, the students that are out here, you know, life is one of finding a need and filling it. It's just, you know, and there is today so much need. And so we're counting on the future of you young people to come up with some things to make the world a better place for all people. And that's it, I guess.
So I wanted to just, while we're on this, I wanted to just take a moment and praise you for the work that you've done here at the Institute of Design, and it's entirely appropriate that we're having this conversation here at ID, and in particular for the work that you've done, the support that you've given to Kim. And I know you've shared with me that there's a lot of innovation. You think that real innovation is coming out of that.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. Though Kim didn't talk about one of the first programs that I heard with her was, we have the largest incidence of childhood asthma in the United States, in Chicago. And the kids in the, you know, the west side of Chicago and other areas that are not so affluent, they share, you know, much of the things that they shouldn't be sharing for lack of money. Anyway, but there's just an absence of good health care for some children. So she actually developed something at the emergency room, and that children knowing, you know, with the aspirators and the things, so, and how to, you know, when to call the doctor, what health care should be in simpler terms. And so it's, so we introduced her to the Girl Scouts. And so now she's working at Lurie's, which I'm also involved with at Lurie's too, so.
The need is great.
The need is great, but you know, there are people with wonderful ideas, and they just need people to back them or talk about them, or, you know, or support them in some way that they can. We're all connected, by the way. and in Chicago especially.
So I'm going to give you a chance to put in a plug here for the Institute of Design. What's your favorite thing about the Institute of Design?
Oh, I just think the creativity that's come out of this over the year, and the fact how it started with the Bauhaus and Maholinage, you know, and you know what, you know, and the different board members that have been there, you know, your dad, you know. I mean, it was really, you know, amazing just, you know, to be sitting there and, yeah.
Chicago is so fortunate to have this design history here. So
Absolutely.
thank you for all the work you've done here. Very nice, thank you. I want to close with some life lessons that you've shared with me, and in particular advice for young designers. And as I was thinking about this, design is something that keeps you young. So you're all young designers, not just the students here. So you told me that you were very excited to have the opportunity to talk with the students. So thank you to the students who come here tonight. I'm going to share a couple of your quotes. I have 6 of them here. So I will prompt you with them and see if you have a comment on it. Design is optimistic.
Well, sure, because it's looking, you know, what can be.
You call yourself a futurist.
And a futurist, and right.
Design requires courage.
Yeah, because doing anything new does too, and, you know, trying something, you know, different. People are always, they don't like change too much, you know.
It also requires resilience because.
Yes, resilience.
Why does it
well,
require?
You know, in the business that you're in. I mean, yes.
You must stay calm. This is advice to young people. You must stay calm. And you said also don't always be thinking about yourself. So it's back to this notion of the big we. So how do you stay calm with all the stuff that's going on?
Well, I don't know. I'm sort of an optimist that there's hope and that we can make as my dear friend Dr. Paul Farmer said, we can bend the arc in medicine. We can make things better. We can, you know, it's up to us that we can't just sit back and say, oh, me is woe, oh, woe is me, that, you know, there are answers. We just have, you know, we are human beings.
You've mentioned this earlier in our conversation tonight and other times as well. We are stronger together. Whose motto is that?
I think that's come out now lately with my work with the Girl Scouts, that we've been coining that. I was a Girl Scout, and it meant the world to me in Calumet City. And so my 4 friends were in the Girl Scouts with me. So anyway, we are stronger together, and we are, you know, we can make a difference.
This is a particularly important moment for that, as we look at the new way to build effective workforces in this environment where people don't come to work as they used to. AI is potentially replacing some jobs. So there really is this importance on being stronger together.
Yeah, how do you build a culture? How do you build a community, you know, and that's mental wellness, that you belong to something, that you've made a difference, and, you know, yeah, it's good to have alone time. I mean, I love being alone at times, but it's also, you love, you know, working together and making a difference, and you can make a difference. We all can make a difference.
The last one I have that you've shared with me is be exposed to the world.
Well, that global, you know, influence of, you know, we are a melting pot of ideas and of people and customs, and, you know, the more you learn of the world, the more you learn that it's pretty good out there, and we don't have a rein on what's the best here in America sometimes.
I think you and Gordon have been very fortunate to build this business that has enabled you to go all around the world, and it created this this incredible enthusiasm you have for travel. So I'm still very impressed with how much travel you do. You are exposed to the world, for sure.
Well, thank you.
So I would just like to thank the audience tonight for joining in this conversation. I hope you've gotten some insight into this remarkable career that Carole has led, and that it inspires you for your own adventure of opportunity and serendipity. And thank you to the Institute of Design. I just want to thank you for having us here tonight, and then we'll open it up for questions.
All right. Could you open a bottle of water because I'm dry and I didn't?
No, I'm sorry. I should have done that for you earlier.
That's okay.
So we have 2 mics on both sides. So if you raise your hand, some mic runners will come to you. And I think Carole really would like the students to ask some questions.
Here we go.
Hi, Carole and Eric. Thank you so much for being here and for this conversation. My name is Preksha. I'm a master's student here at ID. And what an honor to be here, with you in the same room. My background is in interior design, so the amount of times I've given, I've suggested crate and barrel products to my clients, and all of them have come back to me saying that they love it.
Yeah.
So my question is, when Carole, you and Gordon kind of started establishing crate and barrel in the 60s, you were trying to bring this modernism, like a modern taste, into the very traditional design taste of America, right? So in that process, were you kind of trying to respond to the shift in the design taste, or were you like intentionally trying to cater or to shape this design, that the modern design that we see today in crate and barrel? What was your intention behind it?
Well, I don't think we had. I think we were looking for more of a product that was simple and lovely, had no decoration on it, a glass that was functional and well designed and did what it was supposed to do, whether it was a beer stein or the goblet and for the red wine. I don't think we were looking that we were forming a design shape or things that way. I think we were just we happened to like things that were rather simple and not decorated, but it was just something that a lifestyle that. And there was a need. There were a lot of people that needed to have things, and times where that people got jobs, but didn't have a lot of money. I mean, whole Prairie Shores was based. All those 5 buildings were based on the fact if you had a college education, it was like a dormitory life afterwards. If you had a college education, you could get an apartment there. So that we were all these young people, and so many of our friends came out of that. So this was a time of growth, and we just happened to be lucky that what we were serving, we just wanted products to last, because we didn't have much money, and we didn't want to buy those ironstone things of 20 pieces of ironstone guaranteed to break in 1 year or chip, So. You're welcome.
Your contribution in the design pioneering.
Thank you.
Hey, Carole. My name is Faisal, recent graduate from the Institute of Design this fall. You mentioned thank you for being here, by the way. You're an inspiration to all of us. You mentioned something about when you get it started, there were a lot of people copying you. How did you use that as motivation to go forward? Because in this day and age, we have a lot of copycats, a lot of people that are inspired by the work that you might do, but that comes across in different ways. But how did you use that to motivate the business going forward?
Well, again, there was a group of people within Foodstuffs. We did get copied at Crate, but that was like Bloomingdale's set up one little display that had crates and barrels in it, which was sort of stupid, but anyway. Very interesting. Very interesting, but stupid. Anyway, but and Foodstuffs. But we still had a group of people who, were inspired with, with doing what they were doing and were really good at it. But it was difficult, and as a creative person, and operations is not one of my favorite things because. Unfortunately, you spend 75% of your time on, with people issues. And so I left that to Gordon with Crate and moved on then, with Foodstuffs. But it's hard, and that the copycats and the people, but I think if you get people around you who believe, and it's a team, and you're working with them, I think that's the best thing. That, you develop other people and you become really, the ideas that can come up from a group of, other people, it's terrific,
There was a culture at both of those places.
Yeah, you build up a culture.
And it's hard for people to break away from that because you don't get that in every organization.
Right. So what kind of an idea are you working on? Many? Good.
It's true.
Good. So with that, you'll have one that definitely will pop up and will inspire a couple other people to say, we can do this, and as I said, stronger together. Welcome.
Hi there. Thank you so much for being here. I work in the healthcare industry. So what I'm curious about is over your pursuits for improving healthcare for all and thinking about access to healthcare, have there been other industries or other countries where you've found inspiration or looked to try to apply models that other entities are using in their world that are applicable and valuable to healthcare?
Well, actually, I'm involved in Rwanda at the University of Global Health in Rwanda. And what Africa has done is the global healthcare worker, the community healthcare worker. And so whether we can create that kind of feeling in a community, so we do at Malcolm X, we do give now, I talked to Juan Salgado years ago, and so in the West Side, with our Rush West Side initiative, the healthcare, the community healthcare worker, to go in and say, did you take your medicine today? Do you have enough food today? How are you feeling today? So it's that community kind of experience. I don't think AI gives that. It's still that, when people, and it's again, it's that kind of thing. And that's, if we could get to that point, I don't know that we will ever now with AI. And, but that's such an important thing. There is a food delivery service in Chicago that actually does go to older people and delivers it to them. So that's the kind of case where they know who this person is, and did they answer the door? Are you okay? And so it's not one of the big food depositories, but anyway, but that's been very, very successful. A friend of mine started that about 20 years ago. And so that kind of community, which we're trying now at Rush to do that with, our West Side initiative and, with the different centers and get that through, the people are comfortable. But no, it's really an issue. And with the costs going up, how are people going to be taken care of, and can they get, so.
You've also been an advocate for these collaborations. So this collaboration between ID and Rush has been really important. That's a model that I think can be looked at elsewhere.
Collaborations that way, and now like they're doing with Lurie's. And Lurie's is also connected with us at Rush. And so, that's something that, again, it's stronger together.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome.
we can break to just
I think
get
that's
together.
it's time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
you're
was
welcome.
great.
You're welcome. All right. We did it.
Yeah, we did. Cheers.
Thank you so much, Carole. As you can see, there's a lot of love in this room for you and what you have done for the design team. Thank you, Eric, for leading us through this
You're welcome.
conversation. Before we close out and we get back to the food and alcohol, in the 1960s and 70s, around the same time that Clayton Garden was founded, faculty and students at Interior Design were experimenting with different designs of cups, plates, tableware, all to build what would become the Fortune magazine's 100 best designs of the modern era. We, in preparation for this event, we went to the Illinois Tech archives and looked through all of those work to see if there's something that we could give to Carole. So we found a few whimsical photographs that show the nature of the experimentation of that time. And we wanted to share them with you, Carole. And so with this, we want to give you this gift. And I would like to, our provost, Dr. Elizabeth Hudson is here with us today. So I'd like to invite her to come up so we can give this together to Carole.
Am I supposed to stand up?
Stand up.
I think. Okay. Yeah, no, I'm fine. But okay, thanks. Let's see what we've got.
To be here and to be able to celebrate.
Oh my
This
goodness.
amazing history and celebrate you.
Oh, well,
It's really
thank you.
fantastic.
Thank you. This is wonderful.
So this is an image of the cups that were being experimented. And we found this image down here of faculty members creating these mechanisms to test these cups. So they're spring loaded. So if you pull a string, it'll act like it's jostling the cup around.
Well, that's interesting.
Here you go.
Anyway, well, thank you. Whoops. You could get it up higher. Oh, you got it? Okay.
We won't let you hold it.
All right. No, that's fine. Thank you. Thank you. This
So-
was wonderful.
You know, one of the things that happened at the Institute of Design is we went from cups to, design products to designing systems to designing healthcare systems and so on. So thank you, Carole, for being that inspiration to showing us that you can move from products to foodstuffs to developing systems and helping people. Thank you for your generosity of time, talent, advice, mentorship,
welcome.
all of that.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
Lovely. Thank you. Come on. Come on. I want you to come up because I think that we're going to want to take one more photograph here.
Okay.
Right? It's my big brother,
Your Swedish brother.
the Swedish one. That means you're svenska pojke.
Thank you.
That means it's I'm a svenska flicka.
Let me take your